All right, Kentucky, South Carolina. Kentucky was supposed to be a guaranteed win at the start of the season. Now you are in must-win mode if you're South Carolina. We preview the game. How do we feel about it? We feel pretty good. I feel like this is a good bounce-back spot, but we will get into the numbers to know, the players to know, and, of course, our game predictions. South Carolina, Kentucky preview starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler. We are ready to go. It's Thursday. We're recording this, and we've got a great show in store for you. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to everyone making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we're a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to switch it up. First off, we got a new hat from the game. They are not our title sponsor this week, but they are fantastic, and we love them. So we're going to switch it up. We're going to go, I feel naked without the hat. So we're going to do that. We're going to switch this one over here, and we're going to re-feng shui our way back into winning a football game. Now, that being said, today's episode, we have a doozy for you previewing the Kentucky game. The first thing we're going to do is give a shout out to our friends at Mazda. They're the reason we're here. Like our players, they sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward Mazda Move and Be Moved. All right, we have a full preview show. We got a bunch of good numbers here. One of my good buddies, Josh Hancher, did a deep dive on some of the Kentucky, South Carolina numbers. He, of course, sent it to me in a PDF, so I cannot put this on here on the screen without it being a screenshot and looking sloppy. So we're not going to do that, but we got a great show for you. Let's get into it. I'm weary. Is the best way to put it, how I feel about this weekend. The 6.5 point line, concerned about that because it feels like it should be higher. Watching this defense the past 2 weeks, watching this offense the past 2 weeks, watching the team the past 2 weeks has been jarring in terms of where my confidence was versus now. Now, I will tell you right now, it seems like I was way overconfident and I should have been. A lot of you in the comments have told me how dumb that was, and it seems like as of right now, you're right. But I will tell you this too. They've been here before. They have been here before, and there should be some sort of proof of that from what we saw last year, and hopefully that transpires and we see some more proof of that again this year. The over-under in this game is 45.5. The line is 6.5. You are at home. You've won 3 straight games against Kentucky. There's not a ton of players on this Kentucky team I think anybody knows. Most of your best players left a season ago, whether it be to the draft. Barry Brown went to LSU. You brought in Zach Calzada. He's already banged up. He also has been the worst quarterback statistically in the SEC since he's been here. There's just not a ton to love about Kentucky, except for 2 guys. And that's where we'll start. We're going to talk about the keys to winning for South Carolina. The very first thing, and we do this a lot, and you guys usually give me a hard time about it because it's like, yeah, turnovers are a big, important part, and they are. Well, you've won the turnover battle a bunch this year. It hasn't necessarily meant that you've won every game. You won it against Mizzou, and you didn't win the game. But that's always important. That's not where we're going to start, though. It's tackling. South Carolina has 44 missed tackles. It's to the bottom of the league. We talked about this a little bit on yesterday's show. Some of the players who are the biggest offenders of missed tackles, that is terrifying because it's some of your starters. It's people like Dylan Stewart. It's people in the secondary. It's like people that are playing significant snaps in rotation in this on this defense. They have 2 running backs that are both very, very good. And there's Dante Dowdle, and then there's Seth McGowan. And Seth McGowan was a starter at, I believe was he at Nebraska? No. Dowdle was at Nebraska, and McGowan, I believe, was at Oklahoma. But one of them had some overlap with Beamer. The other one was a starter at a P4 level. They don't have numbers that are going to blow you away necessarily. They've combined for around 500 yards, but that's only in 3 games too, guys. That's been a 1 to 2. It's like a 2-headed monster and 1-2 punch that South Carolina fans thought we were going to have with Attaway and with Faison, and we haven't. So the biggest thing I have here is this. You're talking about 2 running backs that are averaging 5.4 yards or more per carry, you're also talking about two running backs that are big, 215-pound backs, guys that can run through you. They're going to break arm tackles. They're going to run through arm tackles. And you saw how bad and how devastating that could be to a defense a week ago. I mean, hands on hips, that's one thing. Being tired, that's one thing. But not being able to figure out a way to get stops has been a huge thing that's plagued this team so far. And you look at what some of the things that they have been able to do. I'm talking about Kentucky. The one thing that if you're looking for one thing they do better, it's running the football. It's running the football. You've got to figure out a way to stop these guys. Last week, Ahmad Hardy, who leads the SEC, maybe the country in missed tackles forced. Well, now you're going to face the guy who I believe they're both top 10. Me and Alyssa Lang talked about this morning on SEC this morning on Sirius. And she said it was both. I believe it's just McGowan that is fifth in the SEC in missed tackles forced. And they've only played 3 games. Everyone else in the top 10 has played 4. So that should tell you, like last week, you cannot show up in this league in general with like a lackadaisical half-ass attitude. Excuse my language, but you cannot show up in this league with a half-ass attitude and think you're going to win games. And South Carolina learned that last week. Like, that was a winnable game. Vanderbilt got away from them. Last week was a winnable game against a very good team on the road. But now you're back home. You're back home. What does Kentucky do well? Well, first and foremost, they are going to run the football, so you have to stop the run. You have to stop the run. Okay? It's not something that South Carolina has been necessarily bad at per se. It's not something they have been great at either. You look at the numbers, like Kentucky's offense and what they do. Like the reason why they have such a huge emphasis on their run game is because, one, Zach Calzada was pretty bad at quarterback, and also he's injured. So now you're going to be starting a redshirt freshman, Cutter Boley, on the road. It's his first SEC start and his first start on the road. So this place has to be a house of horrors for him. But you look at South Carolina, you're talking about like the thing that was scary to me isn't the fact that you're giving up 152 yards per game, which is third most in the SEC. It's not that you're giving up 3.9 yards per carry, which is third most in the SEC. It's that teams are running the ball 39 times a game against you, which is the most of any team in the SEC. That means that they feel like that's a weakness and they are going to exploit it. I mean, point blank period, 39 times. That ranks 107th in the country. That is where teams feel like they can make some hay against you, and they have. So you've got to figure out a way to make sure you are not having people run through arm tackles, and you have got to bring a different effort this week versus last week. The other keys, third down has been something that has plagued South Carolina badly. Plagued them badly. And it's not just something necessarily that's been the offense or the defense's fault or anything like that. It's been bad on both sides. This is one strength that Kentucky has. We're going to talk about that when we come back, and the other strengths as well. Also, some of the weaknesses, because there's plenty for Kentucky, and we're not going to sit here and try to sunshine pump and say that this will be a cakewalk, because it won't be. It usually never is between these two teams. But there's also a lot of areas of concern for Kentucky, which means South Carolina should be able to take advantage of those, and I think they will. We'll talk about that when we come back as well. Before we go to break, do you want to give a quick shout-out to our friends at DoorDash? You guys, listen, this is actually one of the coolest deals they have, I feel like, going on right now, and it's the DoorDash Streak. And if you haven't heard what that is, make sure you are paying attention for the next roughly 60 seconds, okay? It's almost the weekend. It's time to look back, crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. So for South Carolina, the answer is pretty obvious. It was LaNorris Sellers. You could also give a nod to Vandrevius Jacobs, who was incredible and had a breakout game. Hopefully we'll see many more of those as well. But when the pressure was on, they seemed to come through for the most part, especially Jacobs. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance was not a fluke. He leads the team in receiving yards so far, and I would say Vandrevius Jacobs is going to get on a streak this weekend. Just like Jacobs delivered for South Carolina, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Think about that. So if you're going to order food in, like most of us do on game days, you just keep a streak alive. And every time DoorDash delivers on Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday that you order. Stack it up all season. You can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. And the promo period runs through November 18th. Pretty pumped about that. I think it's a great deal. Also want to give a shout out to none other than our friends at FanDuel. We're going to make some money this weekend, guys. The NFL season's here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Tell you what I'm going to look at tomorrow, I think that Kentucky has a secondary that is ripe for the picking. It is ripe for the picking. And if you watch them play defense this year, LaNorris could have himself a day. He could have himself a day. We'll get into more of that with the prediction for sure. But that is what I'm going to be looking at tomorrow. I'm going to be looking at, situations where I could bet LaNorris Sellers prop bets. Maybe talk about Jacobs. Maybe Nick Harbor finally goes off. Maybe they get Mazio Bennett involved. I don't know. Maybe it's all the above. But there are some plays that are rightly available, and I'm going to do so with FanDuel. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app right now. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. We'll be right back with more LockedOn Gamecocks after this. All right, we're back. Let's get into it. So the other key here, I think offensively, I think you're going to see LaNorris Sellers. I wouldn't call it a Superman game, but LaNorris Sellers is going to have the ball put in his hands. I think you have got to figure out a way to get a win, no matter what. This could be devastating if you lose. And I'm not trying to be dramatic when I say that. You lose this game, you look at the rest of the schedule, and you're talking about where else do we feel confident? Coastal Carolina, who's probably going to be a bowl team. Coastal Carolina, Clemson, maybe that game's at home. You have got to figure out a way to win this game. And like I said this the other day, what they really need, I thought, when I first started talking about this earlier in the week, is it'd be nice if they could figure out a way to get ahead early, score on that first drive, get going, and then figure out a way to put your foot on someone's throat and don't let up. Personally, that's what I hope happens. I don't know if it's going to be what happens, but it also might be best for this team to learn how to win. Not just a blowout, but learn how to win when their back's against the wall. It felt like last week they didn't know who to turn to in that scenario when they needed to get a win. And they didn't make enough plays, but just, period. The biggest thing here, and this is the most obvious statement ever, the offensive line here for Kentucky is pretty good. They've only allowed 3 sacks all season. Like I said, they run the football pretty well, but they've only allowed 3 sacks all season. Every single one of their linemen, besides the left tackle, who I would imagine is going to have a tough day tomorrow, is ranked to 65 or above, or 66 or above on PFF for the season, which is good. You look at that and compare it to South Carolina. You've got 2 players on your only 2 players on your offensive line that rank over a 60 or above. You have Stanley, the center, is under 54. Left guard, 54.7. Josiah Thompson continues to be the worst player on the line for the second year in a row with a 48.5 grade, allowing a ton of pressures. You got to figure out a way. You have to figure out a way to get ahead of the chains. We say it every week, but you got to figure out a way to do that, and then find a way to protect LaNorris Sellers long enough to where he can throw the football. This secondary for them is not good. They're allowing 7.8 yards per catch this season. That is horrible. It's the second most in the SEC. Georgia actually ranks worse. Now they have turned people over. They've only allowed 2 touchdowns through the year with 4 interceptions, which is impressive. But they are currently allowing. You talk about from what they've done in their first 3 games. Toledo threw. No one's completed over 6% of their passes, but Toledo threw for 270 yards. That was an 8-point game. It wasn't like they got them late. Ole Miss threw for 235 yards. That was when Simmons got injured, and they couldn't throw the ball a ton. They also picked him off early in that game. They've also registered an interception at least once in every game. And then Eastern Michigan threw for 330 yards. And I want to bring this up with the Eastern Michigan thing, okay? Eastern Michigan is a bad football team. They are 1-3. They somehow beat Louisiana. They're 1-3, but they also because Kentucky blew them out 48-23. That Eastern Michigan team lost to Long Island, and Long Island is a drink, not even a school. I mean, that's almost impossible to do. If you're going to take advantage of this Kentucky team, it is going to be defensively through the air. Yes, you might have a turnover or so, but they're giving up nearly 8 yards per attempt. 8 yards per attempt. I mean, they're giving up a ton of yards. I mean, per game, we're talking. Let's see here. I mean, they've given up 600. I shouldn't do the math. You guys tell me not to do this. I'm gonna do it anyway. What's 835? 835 divided by 3, I believe, is about 283. I should be right around there. I could be wrong. I should have just done the math. This is good radio. Good job, Chris. 278. 278 yards passing per game. LaNorris needs to have a big game. I'm fine with him having a turnover as long as it's not in a crucial spot where you're like backed up on your own side or deep in the red zone there. But I say that only because they're going to need to take some chances. The run game has not gotten going at all. It just hasn't. And I'm telling you right now, there is. I've looked at this game a bunch, and I've sat there and I've said, like Kentucky is not a good team, and they're not. You should not lose this game. Kentucky's not a good team, but the other side of that is you've got to figure out a way where if you're Kentucky, like what do you do best? You block for the quarterback very well, and you run the football. Take the ball out of LaNorris Sellers' hands and try to run clock. That's what they're going to try to do. I mean, it makes the most sense. You've got to figure out a way to get stops. You have to figure out a way to get stops. And you've also got to figure out a way, like sacks probably won't be a thing that we see a ton of from South Carolina this weekend. And that shouldn't come as a surprise because we haven't seen a ton of them so far, I feel like, this season. They have 8. That's not bad. That's not anything crazy. Kentucky's only had 5. Do not make that number double, right? You gave up 5 last week, but like the sacks allowed thing, Kentucky's allowed 3 all season in 3 games. Now the competition's been pretty bad, but them being able to do that against Ole Miss is also concerning. If you're going to take advantage of them, it's going to be in the passing game. And you look at some of the numbers here again. What Kentucky's been able to do game by game. Offensive yards per play, not anything great. They've gotten better every game, 4.9, 5.4, and then 7.4. But at the same time, their defensive yards per play from Toledo, Ole Miss to Eastern Michigan, they allowed 4.8, 6.8, and then 7. So their last 2 games against Ole Miss, who's good, right, all things considered, in Eastern Michigan, they've given up nearly 7 yards per play, which is really bad. Here's the one thing they're also really good at, and that is staying on the field on third down. They are a good team when it comes to converting on third downs, and that is a scary thing for South Carolina because South Carolina is not very good at that. They're not. I'm looking at it right now. 43.9%, and they're only allowing teams to convert on 31.8%. Where does that rank? I'm glad you asked. Kentucky ranks 10th, which doesn't sound great on third down at 44%, but keep in mind South Carolina's at 30%. 30. That is terrible. Terrible. You've got to figure out a way to be in more third and short situations and not so many third and long situations. We talked about this yesterday on the show. You've had 20 total plays on the year where you've been in. Let me see this real quick. Rushing. Hold on. Bear with me here. Third down plays all season. You have had a total of, this is crazy. You've had a total of 47 third down plays this season. 47. 20 have been 3rd and 10 or longer. 20, which means you're talking about 43% of your third downs are 3rd and 10 or longer. That cannot happen. You got to figure out a way to be third and manageable, okay? So that's another big thing as well. We're going to talk about one more key to this whole victory when we come back. Before we do, we're going to give a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, and then when we come back, I'll also give a full score prediction and tell you what I think is going to happen on Saturday. And I got to tell you guys, like, I feel good, but it's also one of those things where it's like, we've seen this before. We know how this game should end. Is it going to end that way, in a positive way? Like, you should win against Kentucky. You should beat Kentucky. Is that going to be what happens? And there's some questions of that are very valid, but we will get there in the final segment as well. This episode, though, before we go, is brought to you by Mazda, moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward, I tell you what, it's the play on 3rd and 37 where LaNorris rolled out to his left, escaped pressure, and then figured out a way to complete a pass into Carver for 33 yards. Now, that didn't get them a touchdown, didn't convert the first even, and it sucked they were in the 3rd and 37 in the first place. But what it did do is get you back in field goal range, and I think they made that field goal, and it kept you moving. But 3rd and 37 shouldn't happen. Luckily, LaNorris Sellers put the cape on. It's 3rd and 30. He gets a 33-yard reception. And also, it's become, around, at least with NFL scouts, a play that is listed as the biggest play so far as to why he is QB1. That's his QB1 moment, as many people have said on social media. But I tell you what, when you follow what moves you, okay, when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move or be moved. When we come back, we will give you a final prediction for South Carolina, Kentucky. All right. We know it's at stake. We know how to win this game. We know what each team is capable of, and also what South Carolina is. Well, we don't know necessarily what they're capable of yet, but we think we knew at the start of the year. This needs to be that kind of game. This needs to be that kind of game for South Carolina. They need to change the narrative in this game. There's so many things that you are better at than Kentucky. Your roster is more talented. You have a much better quarterback. They are bringing in a redshirt freshman on the road to make his first SEC start and his first road start. Make that place a house of horrors. You know they're going to try to run the ball. Stack the box, take that away, make them play left-handed, and figure out a way to make this kid run for his life with all those edge defenders, which are showing up to be maybe the best part of this defense so far with how much the secondary has struggled. The edge rushers, the linebackers playing in space, Justin Okoronkwo all over the field every single weekend. Get off the field on 3rd downs, and my God, get ahead early and figure out a way to stay ahead. This is a team that if you let hang around for longer than they should, they will hang around. Saw it in the Ole Miss game. And the biggest difference between Ole Miss and South Carolina right now is that Ole Miss knows how to win that game, and South Carolina is still searching for an identity to figure out how they can do that. This needs to be that win. Change the narrative after this Kentucky game. We came into the season thinking this was a guaranteed win. Now it's a must win. And that's fine. Backs are against the wall already in September. Get to the bye week, 3-2 record. Figure out how to get to LSU with some rest, get some guys healthy, and a new plan of attack. Okay? But in this game against Kentucky, the thing is simple. Change the narrative. Be better on 3rd downs. Be better at what do you call it? Protecting the quarterback. And that one, listen, you could toss that out the window if you want, because I feel like that one almost feels like a helpless, pointless point to even make at this point. That's a lot of points in one sentence. But be better on 3rd downs. Be more disciplined. This is a Kentucky team that's 3rd in the SEC in penalties per game. Okay? Be more disciplined than them and figure out a way to make sure you're not constantly hampering yourself and shooting yourself in the foot. That way you're taking a step forward and you figure out how to go win a ball game, and now you have something to build off of, just like last year. So what I think is going to happen in this game, I think LaNorris Sellers has his best game of the year. I think they put the ball in his hands running the ball a little bit more. I think they get him and the running backs out on the edge a little bit more. I think they stick to what has been working. Okay? I think Jacobs has a big game. I think Nick Harbor gets going, and I think some other receiver, whether it's a tight end or it's one of the other receivers that we don't know yet, personally I think it's going to be Rowe, is going to come in and have a really, really good day. And I'm going to compare it to what Delon Campbell did last year in several key games late in the year, where he just kind of like, was laying in the weeds for a lot of the time throughout the season, wasn't like a super go-to guy. And then boom, maybe it's not a 6-catch, 90 yards or a 7-catch, 128 like Jacobs had last week, but it's a 4-catch, 52 yards, 3 first downs. South Carolina is going to win this game. I'm very confident in that. I personally think they're going to win by 10-plus points. But you cannot let Kentucky hang around. So what I think is going to happen, LaNorris Sellers is going to put up a ton of yards. I think you're talking about a 350-yard-plus game against a defense that is right for it. And that's combined with passing and rushing. But I think you're going to see something closer to 250 to 300 yards passing and then 50 to 100 yards rushing. This is the game where LaNorris shows who LaNorris is. And then I think this is what the building block will be, which is everyone else realizing who the leader is, and also like, hey, we can go win a game. Dylan Stewart on defense trying to get after the quarterback. Maybe it's another guy, but at the very least, making sure you can hold your own on the line and letting those linebackers come play downhill and run free, right? Change the narrative. No missed tackles. Get off the field on third downs. Convert your own third downs. Stop shooting yourself in the foot. The other stuff will come, but you have to start somewhere. And if it's a baby step situation, that's fine. Go beat Kentucky. Go beat them at home. I feel like 10-plus points is where my overconfidence might be. Like my dad used to always say when I was growing up, they didn't make these billion-dollar hotels in the middle of the desert out of nothing, though. And 6.5 is the line from Vegas. Something tells me they'll be pretty close. They were pretty good last week, right? It was about a 9.5-point spread. I think they won by 9. So I will say final score, South Carolina 27, Kentucky 7. That is all for today's episode of LockedOn Gamecocks. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for the Friday episode. I think we're going live at 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern with our buddy Mike Bratton, SEC Mike from that SEC podcast. Until then, y'all be well, be safe, be good to each other. Most of all, go Cox.